Change. It's one of the most interesting concepts to really delve into. And it's all about what goes on for us during change, during times of change, in the current environment, some of the changes we're going on. What really goes on inside us? What happens in our brain, with our friends, with our peers, with our families, when we're experiencing change? And today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to dive into some of the principles, some of the ideas and concepts around change. And we're really going to talk about, how do we need to look at change differently? We don't really get taught how to handle change, how to navigate it. We're really just forced into it. And so learning in today's world how to handle some change and help others handle change more effectively is going to be really important to building relationships, keeping people grounded during these times of change, and really understanding what's going on. So I want to start and just talk a little bit about what change really is inside us. And really what it is there's a really great concept we're going to start with. So I'm going to show you an image here in a moment, and it comes from Matthew Kelly. And if you've never read a Matthew Kelly book, he has some wonderful books on leadership, different ideas around leadership, great books. And one of my partners was at one of his conferences, and he gave them this wonderful tool around change that we really, really enjoy. And so I want to show it to you and talk a little bit about what really goes on inside our brain when we make these shifts in our lives. And so I'm going to bring this image up first, and this is called crazy time. Okay? This is called crazy time. What it is that when we're going from an old way of doing something, right? An old routine, an old process, an old system, and we're moving our way over to the new way something is going to be done, the newer system. We go through this incredible time called crazy time. And what it is was, as we unlearn the old way, right? And then go from the old way, learn some of the new, just like this diagram. In the middle of the time you have from unlearning the new way, or the old way, to learning the new way, it's called crazy time. And I don't know if Matthew Kelly named it off of crazy time because of what actually happens in the brain, or because it just feels like a hectic, crazy time. But the truth is, what happens inside our brain when we go through change is incredible. Our brain is extremely intelligent, and what that means is it creates these neural pathways, these bridges amongst our routines, our daily things that we do. And so what that is that, as you use the same system over and over, we actually create these maps within our brain that allows us to jump from one thing to the next much faster. And that's why a tenured employee with a system uses it extremely quickly, while a new employee takes the time to learn how to do it because they're building the pathways. Now, when we have change, so when we are being moved to a new position within a company, maybe we left the company, maybe we brought some new people into our family, and all these different ideas, what happens is those bridges that are connected, we have to break those bridges apart and then learn the new way of things and build a new system over the top of that old system that allows us to wire and fire at the rate that we usually do, our productivity levels. And that's why when we go through change, we have such a tough time. Now, this is what's really incredible about change, and something that I want people to understand is that process of breaking apart our neuropaths and building new neuropaths, that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And it is different for each and every person. And so we're going to talk about two types of change. The first is called first order change. And first order change are the things that we're able to do every day, things that don't really bother us as much. Maybe for you, it might be you planned on making yourself a turkey sandwich. You looked in the fridge and there was no turkey, there was only ham. So you switched, you ate your ham sandwich, and everything was okay. Now, there will be things that are first order change to you that are not first order change to another person. I have a younger kid that I really know well, and that idea of changing that lunch is really big to them, right? So we all experience the change differently. So don't assume because something is a first order change, something you handle regularly, move at a nice speed, very easily, that's really easy. Think about even just a detour on the road. Some people, go right over the detour, take the extra 5 or 10 minutes to get somewhere, and others, it just wrecks their day. So know that first and second order change is different for everyone. But what's really important for you to know is what second order change is. And that's change in which it takes a huge behavioral change, an attitude change, a whole viewpoint, perception change from our people. And so when we're moving from one habitual routine at work to another, maybe an entire new system, that's somebody completely letting go of a routine and moving to a different type of routine. And the reason we called this whole webinar here, understanding the true loss that happens with change, is because there's a really big loss when we lose routine, when we lose systems. Right now, think about working from home. You know why your kids are experiencing a loss with this second order change? They've lost all their friends, their routine, their teachers, the things they were used to doing every day. And so same for you. You're at home from work. And what did you lose? You lost that relationship, those companions, those people you talk to every day. And so we all go through that type of change, that second order change where we've lost something. And so what I tell people is that imagine like a carousel when you enter the carnival. And there used to be those kind of little games where you would shoot the water gun into this clown's mouth and your little horse would run along the piece there. What I want you to imagine is the beginning is the starting line. That's the old way of doing something. And at the end is the new way. Well, it takes everyone different times and they're on different parts of that path. You have some people who are really good at squirting right down the middle and they're moving very nicely and quickly down the line. And then you have people who aren't really being able to do that, right? It takes them a lot longer. They keep missing, they're getting frustrated, and their horse moves a lot slower. And so as a leader, a friend, a peer, a coworker, a family member, we need to know, where are people on that ride? Where are they on that path? And how do we help them understand the loss that they're experiencing? Be there for them in the process of going through that. Because that change, that second order change, is all about the behavior, the whole routine, the things that you lose, that you have to relearn. Imagine as an employee, you've been somewhere for 10 years and you've become the expert at something. And all of a sudden that specific skill and that technology isn't needed anymore. Well, oftentimes we have a loss of sense of our ego, right? Our ability to be great at what we do. And so helping people along that path, working with them to understand, well, where are you in this path? What are our losses? Acknowledging that they're losses and that we go through the same types of grief that we go through when we do lose something. We lose those routines, we lose those habits. And so right now, being at home, understand that your family, your spouse, your friends, your children are all going through some sort of loss of routine, structure, joy that they had in the day, and be there for them and learn how to just share with them, where are you in this process, right? How can I be of a support to you? And what we do is we help them transfer from that from that very first part of the old way into the new way. And that's the difference between first order and second order change. The next part about change that we kind of want to talk a little bit about, and I'm going to share an image here, is this idea of the process of change. We go through something and we immediately create a plan for it. And you can see here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. It says, let's talk about the progress of change. When I laid out the carnival game, I said, here's the old way, here's the new way. And your horse goes right along the path. And that looks a lot like this one here. Right? Looks a lot like, and I'm going to circle it real quick, looks a lot like this, right? It's a straight path. But when we actually play the game, our horse looks a whole lot more like this. And why is that? Well, we have obstacles, right? In the game, it's trying to hit right down the line each time, and we just miss off a little bit and our horse stops for a minute. In life, it's all the things that get in the way of nicely and smoothly facilitating that change. It can be Remember we talked about the second order? It's about the loss. It's about the loss that we experience. We go through those different cycles, up, down, around. And this is really what our chain process looks like. And so what we need to understand as leaders, family members, parents, is that while we're experiencing this change, while we're going through these changes of routine, loss of companions and friends, co-workers that we talk to every day, that people can be all over this map. And our role for ourselves and for others is to just help understand where are they and how can I help support them just continue to move along their path so that they can start to understand this new way they'll be doing something. And so as I said, right, we all have these connections, these bridges, these neural pathways we've created. And as we go through this change, no matter what it is, in current times, it's a very large change. Other times, it may be a little smaller change. But understanding the time, energy, effort that it takes to break away a neural pathway that we've created over years and start to rebuild those in a new way. And so my last part here to share is one little technique that we oftentimes talk about when it comes to the brain, when it comes to rewiring that quick twitch fire that happens in your brain. It's this small statistic here. And so I'm going to share this diagram. And you can see here, there's a little research here, and it says scientists have recently determined that it takes approximately 400 repetitions to create a new synapses in the brain. So that's 400 repetitions to create those new pathways, right? And then it says, unless it is done with play, in which case it takes between 10 and 20 repetitions. Why is that important? Well, when we're teaching somebody a new system, right, new technology, this 400 repetitions is exactly how we do it. We go in and we do the same insurance process over and over again. And it takes us months of lower productivity to catch up in repetitions, right? To get enough repetitions to understand, okay, how do we do this new thing? But how often do we always say, why do kids seem to pick up things quicker? Whether it be a new instrument, a new game. Well, it's because they're doing it down here. They are living out of this part of their brain, enjoying the process, oftentimes making some sort of game out of it, right? That's why they do it with this play. And that's why when you see a younger child starting to learn something, oftentimes they'll just keep at it until they learn it, while we as adults start to get really frustrated when we don't get it on the first few repetitions. And you've seen a million memes out there about, oh, if I don't get it the first time, I'm done. And that's how our brain wants to work, because what it is it's very hard to break down those neural pathways and build those bridges above it that allow us to learn how to play the guitar easier, learn our new sales system easier, or reinvent the way that we do things in our routine. And so what I want to share with you here is that there's a reason that training, that things are moving to this more simulation, game-oriented, gamification systems. It's because how do you create fun out of your environment? How do you create fun out of your change? And so that's my challenge to you today. As you walk away from this, I just want you to think about the current changes that you're going through, your family's going through, your children, your coworkers, and think about how can we go through this with a little bit more fun, with a little bit more play, with a little bit more joy. How do we make a game out of learning how to have school from home? How do I as a parent learn to teach my kids and have some fun with it? So as you look at the changes you're going through, whether it is what we're going through right now in the environment, or whether it's a new process change at work, or a new habitual change, you've changed offices and now there's a simple change of, okay, now logistically, how does the morning work? All of that. Learn how to enjoy the process, make it a game, play with it, and remember that we were all kids once. We all loved to play, joke around, play a game. And when we lose that, we take ourselves very seriously. And as we go through change, it's something that we can't do. We have to learn to laugh at ourselves a little, make a game out of it, because those neural pathways, They are very hardwired into our system after years of doing the same routine. To work on breaking those apart, and then more importantly, to build those new ones on top of it, it does. It takes time, effort, energy. Remember our crazy time. I'm going to show that one more time. Remember that crazy time. When we move from the old way of doing something, we have to unlearn it, and then we have to learn the new way of doing something, right? We go through this huge part of time called crazy time. And the way to ease that is to enjoy the process, make it fun, make it play, and find a way to make it a game. And understand that everyone experiences change differently. And that you have the power to take a deep breath, to enjoy the process, and to help others do the same. Thank you.